Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We're here today in the National Press Club in Washington, D.C., in Edward R. Murrow Room. We have here animal welfare advocates with the Citizens Campaign Against Big Lick Animal Cruelty. It's our pleasure to come before you and make the case for what CCABLAC, that's an acronym for Citizens Campaign Against Big Lick Animal Cruelty, has been doing for the last 3 or 4 years. I'm going to introduce our people that are here gracing us today. This is Stephanie McCoyne from Maryland, Ms. Carolyn Longfree from Chattanooga, Tennessee, Christina Gray from Franklin, Tennessee, and Sandy Culbertson from Clarksville, Tennessee. We got started, I guess, back in 2013 when this controversy had been going on a while about the soring of the horses and what could be done. So we started with the Breeders Association. They have approximately 7,000 members, and we wanted to see how they felt about this issue. So we conducted a poll. We sent out postcards to almost 7,000 people. We had them to send them back. The postage was prepaid, certified public accountant, tallied the votes, certified the votes. It was met with a great deal of opposition by the leaders of the Tennessee Walking Horse Breeders and Exhibitors Association in Lewisburg. They're the Big Lick advocates. They want to maintain what we submit as big lick animal cruelty. This map over here represents the total. The green states were all in favor of abolishing the pads and chains, removing them. The red states were the very few states where they want to keep the pads and chains. The blue states are marginal, about 50-50. So this was in 2013. In 2014, there was a concerted effort to get the PAST Act passed. We came close. Congressman Whitfield led it. There were some issues regarding an organization and his wife associated with them, and the House started investigating, and unfortunately, we did not get to see success in 2014. The crowd that wants to continue this big animal cruelty, there are not many of them, but they have a lot of money. And they've given money through the years. One person they've given a lot of money to since 1988 was Mitch McConnell from Kentucky. I was at the 1988 Trainers Show. There was a federal injunction from a judge in D.C. named Oliver Gash. They turned the lights off. The Big Lick organized the next morning. In 3 or 4 days, they raised $400,000 or $500,000. That's back when $400,000 or $500,000 is the equivalent of $2 or $3 million today. Reese Smith, who is the father of Steve Smith, who's the president leader of the Breeders Association, was in charge of that. I was there. I saw him do it. It was like rallying the troops. They continued to fight the battle. They got a young senator from Kentucky named Mitch McConnell. He won by 0.5% coming into office. They've invested in him at the beginning and ever since, and now Senator McConnell is the majority leader of the United States Senate. Without Senator McConnell, you do not get a vote in the United States Senate on anything. So there's a pretty much bottleneck there, and Senator McConnell serves in office until 2020. The millionaires also ponied up the money to sue the USDA to impose minimum penalties for violating the Horse Protection Act. There was a suit out in Texas. It went to the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals in New Orleans. The three-judge panel, led by a judge in Jackson, Mississippi, named Grady Jolly, who's retiring in October. They threw out the USDA the proposal, and it was over. And everybody on our side of the fence was pretty depressed. But we rallied up. I started a Change.org petition in Jackson, Mississippi in February of 2015. 2015. And the court decision had come out 2 weeks earlier. We asked the University of Mississippi to sever all ties with big lick animal cruelty. There was a horse show in Jackson, Mississippi that had gone on for many years, decades. It was an established horse show. The charity was the Children's Hospital at the University of Mississippi. That's my alma mater. I let the people I knew at the university know, we're not trying to hurt your image, but you're hurting your image by being associated with the animal cruelty. Won't you please separate yourself? Will you not refuse to accept any money from this abuse of animals? They took 7 days. They publicly announced that's precisely what they were going to do. They severed all ties. They made it clear they wanted no more part of any big lick horse show. So we had momentum, and we decided we are going to, and we applaud the efforts of all the organizations up here, but we're We the People. We are going to go to where the shows are as citizens and exercise our constitutional rights under the First Amendment, and we're going to bring attention and ask the public to boycott any event that features what we call here these pads or stacks and chains. These came off of a horse named Jen's Ice Glimmer. This sign over here tells Glimmer's story. We rescued Glimmer. Actually, Glimmer was rescued by the Horse Plus Humane Society of Hohenwald, Tennessee, Miss Tawny Preissner, at a auction sale at Cookeville, Tennessee. Glimmer was taken there with a one-way ticket. He was on the way to Mexico to a killer plant where he'd be processed. Glimmer is a beautiful horse, 11 years old. He was a show horse, shown over 5 states, 9 years, 40 times. He wasn't an average show horse, he was a top show horse. One of the last times he was soared was at Middle Tennessee State University. That's the largest university in the state of Tennessee. We brought attention to the plight of Jen's Ice Glimmer. He was covered by the largest TV station in the state, telling his story. Miss Gray here was his custodian for several weeks. She took care of him. Glimmer, after he was shown 10 days before he was rescued, he was in the show ring in Kentucky, and they put him on Craigslist the next week for $757. And I got a call from Miss Preissner, says she just come from California. She says, what do I do with this horse? And I said, we buy this horse. We save this horse. So that's what we did. We documented the situation with him. The USDA presently has an ongoing case regarding Jen's Ice Glimmer. Jen's Ice Glimmer sort of simmered back down for a while, and I got a call right at the middle of February from an operation called Dodo. Well, I've been called a dodo, but I have never known there was an operation called Dodo. Well, anybody in the animal world knows all about Dodo. Dodo's the big time. And we have had our advocates go into horse shows and take footage. We had a demonstration with a former big league trainer named Carl Bledsoe, who took Glimmer and his feet and showed on Glimmer how to cosmeticize his feet where they can pass inspection. We've got a lot of pages here, but nevertheless, this is what Glimmer's feet looked like the day he was rescued in Cookeville, Tennessee, July 28, 2015. He was wearing those shoes you see right here on this podium. He was a big lick horse. They took him to the show, braided up, chains on his feet, going to exhibit him. We were fortunate to get him in the parking lot before he had to go through the ring. The dodo called and said, we've looked at these videos you have. Can we use some of them? I said, who are you folks? We got to know them. Finally, we just said yes. Well, they produced a video, How Soaring Hurts Horses. It's been seen over 11 million times since March the 7th. It features Glimmer. It features the World Grand Champion honors. That's the World Grand Champion at the Tennessee Walking Horse National Celebration, which is the Super Bowl. It features Mr. Carl Bledsoe demonstrating how they cover the scars. It had President Trump announcing the freeze on the regulation, which would abolish the pads and chains. And it just basically told the story. I was up here on January the 19th of this year, the eve of the inauguration. I went over to the Capitol, looked around. I've never seen any of that before. It was how impressive. Pennsylvania Avenue was blocked off. You could walk down the street. The next day, the president was inaugurated. He became the president of the United States. That night, they had him sign an order, or Rance Priebus signed an order, freezing this regulation that was going to remove the pads and chains. That night, we started a Change.org petition. So far, we've got over 100,000 signatures on the Change.org petition, which respectfully asks the President of the United States to intervene in this situation, which is backed in a bipartisan manner. We've got Freedom Caucus, Tea Party, Republican Representative Ted Yoho as a sponsor. We have Representative Kurt Schrader, Blue Dog Democrat from Oregon. This is an issue that everybody virtually agrees upon. Now, Mr. Mitch McConnell doesn't agree upon it because he's been taking contributions from the big league people since 1988. There's another senator, unfortunately, from Tennessee who is a great American, has a distinguished record. He at one time was a candidate for the presidency. He was born in 1940. He's now probably a little past the time you would run for president. Lamar Alexander. He was president, University of Tennessee, was governor of Tennessee, progressive governor, brought industry, manufacturing, automobiles to Tennessee. But he's got a campaign contributor named Mr. Steve Smith, who is chairman of his finances and gave him $3 million. Senator Alexander has adamantly stood in the way of letting his home state get out from the stigma of the big lick animal cruelty. That's a stain on Senator Alexander's distinguished record. Here's looking at a editorial board appearance of Senator Alexander before the Tennessean newspaper. He was asked some questions in response, and he said that the Tennessee walking horse, the Tennessee waltz, Jack Daniels, important Tennessee tradition. The celebration where they have the Super Bowl is one of those traditions. Says it's a big part of Tennessee. Said he's been told by veterinarians and people that show horses it would decimate the tradition of Tennessee to remove these pads and chains. He said he's been to the celebration a number of times. Well, I've looked it up. Senator Alexander hasn't been to the celebration in 33 years. He's out of touch. Time has moved on. Senator Alexander, unfortunately, is listening to the wrong people. He says, this is a direct quote, "I'm not an expert on veterinary medicine, but I know of inspections that they have there. Almost all of them are 96 to 98% successful. Well, at the most recent celebration, the USDA vets disqualified 20% of the horses as being allegedly not compliant with the Horse Protection Act." So we have gone to the people of Tennessee and said, don't do this, don't support this, don't go. We've stood on the sidewalks, we've been into the horse shows. We had one lady threaten. There's an easel, picture on the easel outside, she was holding it. We call it the Teresa Bippen poster. A big lick driver took a truck at her. I happened to be videoing it. It's in Murray County, Tennessee, May of 2015. It was prosecuted. The driver was charged with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. He was tried before a jury in February of 2016, and he was guilty. They moved it down to a misdemeanor, but nevertheless, it shows the resolve and the tenacity. We're not going to let one of these women be intimidated or threatened. We're going to invoke the full process of the law. This here will be in the hands of the President of the United States. It is the dodo pictures on the back and the front, and there are 11,000 comments to the Change.org petition. They signed the petition, but 11,000 people have commented. I've read these comments. Many of them voted for President Trump. There's one lady from Mize, Mississippi, which is my home state. She doesn't leave anything to question about what she'd like the president to do. Their comments, there's 11,000 of these from all over the country. This will go into the Oval Office. It will get there. I'm not sure whether it'll get read. I hope it does, but it's going in there. They have a lot going on up here right now, and it's not easy to make appointments, and the president hasn't been in office a long time, so things have not settled out. But we have confidence that, and the petition is to the president, it's to his daughter Ivanka, it's to the Secretary of Agriculture if and when he ever gets approved, and it's to the Office of Management and Budget, and it's to the American Horse Council. We are going to pursue this cause. You see here on the table, we got a bunch of ball caps. Well, the ball caps represent where all the Citizens Campaign has been active. We have down there on the far right, Memphis. That was Tunica, where Graceland is close to. We had another guy drive a truck at the lady down there. So far, the DA and the sheriff hadn't gotten on the same page, but we're doing all this up here, but we're going to go right back to that. It's up in New York. We had an issue with the Protect the Harvest employee taking a swing at me. We got that on the video. And it's not about me. It's about these horses, and it's about these ladies who are brave enough to stand up. I'm a facilitator. We went to Asheville, North Carolina. That's where we got this picture of the World Grand Champion honors. trying to canter pitifully. He broke leads. They couldn't get him together. And nobody in the equine world wants to be part of this. The American Horse Council will not let the Tennessee Walking Horse Breeders and Exhibitors Association participate or be a member. So that's how much of a pariah this Big Lick is. Ole Miss, that's the University of Mississippi. They stepped up. They severed the ties. Tennessee, we have, since I started in this, I've covered the natural Tennessee Walking Horse exhibit at Tennessee's Neyland Stadium at the homecoming football game. Senator Alexander grew up in Maryville, about 15 or 20 miles from Neyland Stadium. That's his home. He was president of the University of Tennessee. The Big Lick horse used to be exhibited every year. The winner of the celebration would come to Neyland Stadium. That stopped about 2012 through the advocacy of a lady named Rory Northrup, who's with the Friends of Sound Horses. Each year, for 4 years, I've covered that horse. I say covered, I have a blog. I've put video on the internet and let people see. This camp over here is Panama City Beach. We went down there, I went down there last spring, didn't know anybody, went to a city council meeting, had no idea. I found out that the tourism development had agreed to pay $25,000 to the horse show organizer to support the event. And I said, whoa. I said, and I talked to the officials, and I persisted, and one of them said, how long do you think you're going to be here? And I said, about as long as it takes. So we left about 3 months later. The ladies got in behind this. They went to the meetings. They told them what they thought. And I got all their records, look at them. And the way they got paid is after the horse show was in April, about 3 or 4 months later, they'd submit a bill for $25,000. Well, I checked in November, no bill had been submitted. Checked about 2 weeks ago, and no bill had been submitted. I asked them, I said, well, what's up with this? And they gave me an email, so no bill's been submitted, no money has been paid. Now, it seems to me what's happened is, most likely, is that community does not want to be part of these 11 million views with this animal cruelty, and they've told Mrs. Milligan, ma'am, we don't ever want to receive a bill from you, and you don't send us a bill, and we won't throw you under the bus with this publicity. They're having that horse show again this year. We'll be back. There's been a court ruling down there with regard to what you can or cannot do in a public park. We will be back. We will take pictures. We will put them on the internet, exercising our First Amendment rights. This camp here is the Tennessee State Fair. They were supposed to exhibit honors at the Tennessee State Fair. It was after the celebration this year in September. Well, he didn't show up, but the CCABLAC ladies did. They had a sign outside the gate saying, well, you can't have any advertising and this, that, and the other. Well, they wore their T-shirts, and one person came up and said, you're going to have to take those shirts off. Those ladies said, well, no, we're not taking any shirts off. But the bottom line is they wore their shirts. They were able, once again, on public property, to exercise their constitutional rights. This camp down here in the middle is MTSU. We've related that Jen's Ice Glimmer was soared on that campus. He was soared at a horse show called the Middle MTSU Walking for Education Horse Show. It was put on by the Pre-Vet Society. That's how ingrained in the culture the Big Lick has been. We did a change.org. We got 15,000 signatures. We protested twice. Christina was there. Sandy, did you come to that one? No, you weren't here in Tennessee at the time. But in any event, Ms. Preissner of Save Glimmer was there. We set up in front of the student union. We got a lot of support. And we just asked the president of the university to go on record to never having any shows over there again, much less having the Pre-Vet Society. We never really got an answer, but they hadn't had any more shows. That camp down there is New York. We were in New York and rambled around. And that last camp's a Tennessee Titan camp. I got thrown out of the celebration in, I guess it was 2014, for taking pictures. And I was invited. I mean, they put it in paper. Anybody wants to see whatever you want to see, come on down. So I came on down, but I didn't last that long there at the event. You see these trophies on the table, okay, awards. We have the Distinguished Service Awards of CCABLAC. People need to be recognized when they step up and support what we do and the horses. And I mean, Senator Joe Tiding is a recipient for lifetime service. He wrote me a letter. He says, I'm highly honored that CCABLAC has seen fit to award me their Lifetime Achievement Award for my efforts over the last 5 decades to stop and permanently end the despicable practice of soaring practiced on the beautiful and long-suffering Tennessee walking horses. Your steady and valiant efforts to stop this vicious soaring practice has become admirable and effective. Okay, I have here with me Life magazine from 1969. Here's a picture of Joe Tidings in 1969 in October. It's now 2017. That's 48 years ago. This gentleman has been with this effort all that time, and in recent years he's really gotten behind it. Now, one time I put in a blog article, 86-year-old, he told me, he said, "Clint, I'm tired of seeing that." So that stopped being run as far as that's concerned. But anyway, Senator Tidings has been a champion, a gentleman, and an eloquent spokesman for ending the animal cruelty. Another one of these is going to go to Miss Lori Northrup, who, as I said, is a silent person, quiet, who's probably done as much or more than anybody living to try to end this stuff. She's a CEO of companies. She's organized. I get so many seconds and minutes, and that's it. And that's the way she does, but she's effective. She's put on sound horse conferences around the country. The last one was in Brentwood, Tennessee. She stayed the course. Lori gave these words: "Thank you for this honor. I ask everyone to please keep your attention on the horses who are lying groaning in pain right now in their stalls, getting prepared through soaring for the upcoming season. Much change still needs to happen to end the abuses of soaring." Another award goes to Miss Tawny Preissner, who saved Glimmer. She saved another horse last August named Skywatch's Magical Dream, who was also going through an auction for a killer price in Tennessee, and this time during the time of the walking horse celebration, which is mind-boggling, because that's how unconcerned these owners are. The former owner, 6 months prior, won a blue ribbon at the celebration this year. So it's an institutionalized system of, in my opinion, animal cruelty. Ms. Preissner says, "I'm deeply humbled and honored to receive this award, recognizing my work in putting an end to the systemic abuse of walking horses. I will continue to do everything in my power to protect the majestic walking horses in Tennessee and around the nation. I'd like to thank each and every person who does what they can to raise awareness, attend protests, and even a simple share on social media. It is all making a difference, but the fight is not over yet. We must keep fighting for those who have no voice." And of course, I forgot to say at the very beginning, we're up here, sitting here doing this, speaking for the horses that have no voice. We speak for them. That's the promise we made to Genzai's Glimmer when we rescued him, that we would speak for the ones still in what I call the gulag. And I've been reminded that's a historical deal. Well, we're not trying to get back into history, but it's a confinement. It's not a good life for an animal to be in a stall all this time, and as my colleague to my left said, it's like being in pain and in prison. Pain and in prison. Those are the words here of Carolyn Longtree. Another award goes to Diane Hallway DuPont. When I went to Florida, I had nobody, okay? And the newspaper covered the press, the meeting with the city council, and there was some comments, and this one lady reached out and says, "I'd like to talk to you." Well, that was Diane DuPont. She led the charge. She got the people together. She got them to hold the banner, "Don't give 25,000 tourism tax money to hurt horses." Ms. DuPont gets the gold star. She says, "I'm honored to be chosen as a recipient of this award. It stands for what citizens can do to force change when abuse and misuse of taxpayer funds is uncovered in their own community. I share credit for this achievement with my friends that showed up for and spoke at council meetings, signed and shared petitions, and carried signs at protests. Friends that did not even know what soaring was before being recruited to help put an end to this egregious cruelty. I'm also deeply grateful for CCABLAC. Before I joined their efforts, I felt alone in my quest to put an end to our local horse show. Because of this grassroots effort in CCABLAC, our community is much more educated as to the horrific abuse this sport supports. There's still much more work to be done, but today we take time to recognize our accomplishments, how far we have come, and celebrate." Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you, you give me these ladies here at this table and Diane DuPont and the rest of the folks, we'll win this. We're on the right side of history. University of Mississippi, they were going to get on the right side of the history. We're asking the President of the United States to join with us to support this bipartisan effort to get on the right side of history. This should have ended a long time ago. This Life magazine is 48 years ago. In it, as a leader of the Walking Horse Trainers Association, said, his name was Mr. Dick Thompson, I knew Vic Thompson, he said, please simply, Mr. Thompson pleaded simply for, quote, additional time in which to continue efforts to improve conditions. 1969. That's the same thing they're saying in 2017. I reached out to the people in Nashville, North Carolina, emailed this address and got an email back and said, we're interested in what you're doing. And I went up there and met these folks, and there were two more leaders at the table. I was trying to say, who is it that I reached out to? And this little 14-year-old boy says, well, that was me. His name is Jeremy Segarabay. One of these trophies, awards, is Jeremy's. Jeremy got to be 15 here about 2 or 3 weeks ago. Jeremy's a hero. Jeremy's going to be in this all his life. And we got the young people, and they don't have any young people. And that's where we're going to win. Jeremy says, I regret not being able to attend, but I graciously accept this award from CCABLAC. I'd like to thank all the members of this group. Now, I don't write that well now, okay? So, Jeremy's 15. I'd like to thank all the members of this group for honoring me with this award and for their nonstop dedication to bettering the lives of animals. And he says he wanted to thank the members of his group, the Asheville Voice for Animals, and he lists their names: Lafayette, Diane, Sarah, Tim, Gloria, Grace, Rowdy, Gabe, Linda, Denise. He puts me in there, Clint, Liz, Caitlin, Frank, Bridget, and my mother, Lori. This is inspiring. I can't even begin to tell you. Now, we've got a couple of awards here called Profile and Courage Awards. Carl Bledsoe has earned the Profile and Courage Award. I heard from Carl this morning. Carl's former Big Lick horse trainer. He's come out back 2 or 3 years ago, back in 2013 when we were trying to get the PAST Act over the hump. And Carl went against all. His father was a horse trainer. His mom was in it. Carl is a hero. He showed on Jen's Ice Glimmer how they make a horse where he will pass inspection. With the Big League people, and I've stood out there a number of times, and I say, these are not bad people, okay? They're doing something that is bad, but they're not bad people. They go to church, they pay taxes, they support their families, but they're lost on one thing, that it's animal cruelty. Well, Carl came across. He stood up all the way. He showed the tricks of the trade. It's like having a safecracker show you how to get into the safe when he did this inspection video. And this morning he says, I'm excited that CCABLAC is doing this. I'm proud to be able to help this effort. If I was presented with the same situation again of coming forward, I would certainly do it. I believe what I've done is expose what's been going on for decades. It's the norm. The ones making money off the Big Lick never wanted to be exposed, but they have. It's in the best interest of all. Tennessee Walking Horse is a great breed, unlimited future if the pads and chains are removed. Carl's a great guy. There's another great guy named Clay Harlan. Clay's grandfather was there when the Breeders Association was founded, about 34-35. That's 1934-35. His name was Wirt Harlan. His father's name, Bill. Bill's carried on Harlansdale Farm through the decades, still has it. Clay was in the business. That's where I first met him. He spoke up against soaring, and all of a sudden this breeding farm had no mares to breed. They just boycotted him, trying to put him out of business. Clay had to leave the business. He went and did dry cleaning. Okay? Clay says his comments upon receiving the award: since 1934, my family has been involved with this wonderful breed of horses. We only hope it will one day be released from the bondage of animal abuse we call soaring. The walking horse has suffered under the cruel and inhumane training practices used to produce the Big League gait of the breed. It's time for this to end once and for all. Once and for all, to eliminate this practice out of existence. Those are comments from people receiving the awards. I've talked long enough. There's a gentleman sitting here